First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
This is Fox 12 Now, live here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we appreciate you being here with us. We cover a wide range of topics on this show, but one we have been covering, I think everybody's really been talking about, is the concern of wildfire season coming up. We've got droughts in different counties. We've got a very, very low snowpack. And, you know, what could that mean going forward, not only for our wildlands, but also in urban territories as well? Urban wildfire concerns. That's what we're going to discuss here right now. Portland has some places where there could certainly be some. You've got Oaks Bottom near Reed College. You've got a lot of things that, if the conditions were just right, situations just right, could cause some real problems. We're going to discuss that. Joining us, we have Robert McCullough. And Robert, thank you very much, for being here with us to talk about this and to go through some of this research and concerns with urban wildfires. If you don't mind, though, before we start, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your firm?
Yes, my name is Robert McCullough. I own a consulting firm in Portland, Oregon. We have clients from California to Quebec. Traditionally, we do energy and environment. As wildfires have become a greater and greater concern over the last decade, we've been working for large utilities in Wall Street and Canadian tribes and cities on this. It was our work in concert with the New York Times that identified the ignition point of the Eaton wildfire in LA 15 months ago. So it's a part of the world we know, but also once you know enough, you start wondering how much of that applies to your hometown. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, looking at, of course, the devastating Eaton fire and just all of that damage that happened there in LA and loss of homes and lives. So looking at a fire like that, there's all those conditions kind of met at once. I guess talking about our hometown, talking about Portland in general, as far as another urban area, what are some of the concerns that you're seeing or the likelihood of a fire like that taking place?
Well, wildfires are basically heat, wind, drought. We have all of them. Some of the highest winds in the U.S. in an urban area were recorded here in Portland, Oregon, on the Morrison Bridge, of all things. We have extensive urban forests, certainly Forest Park. But Reed College, where I'm giving a lecture tonight, is actually less than a mile from the Oaks Bottom area. These are areas that have electrical transmission lines through them, often a cause, but also campers, another primary cause. We get very little lightning in the area, which is good because that's the third cause. We have coming up an El Nino summer. In fact, some people are now forecasting a super El Nino summer, which means much drier, much hotter. So we have all of the ingredients for a bad fire. In addition, we were really not very well prepared. We finished a very extensive study of the Eaton fire, and they were vastly better prepared than we are. They're larger, they have more staff in the fire departments. But most of all, they had very extensive studies and research methods that should have helped. So they failed with more than we have. So there are some catch-up issues that I'm recommending as well.
What are some of those ways that Portland and the area has failed to prepare, and what can they do to get ready for this potential of some extreme wildfire season?
Well, the good news is our technology is leaping forward. The bad news is we haven't been implementing it. Up on Forest Park, Portland General has done a good job. We have two of the state-of-the-art Pano AI cameras. They sweep Forest Park every second, and they can report back on a fire ignition immediately. Now that's tremendous advantage because once the fire has started, you've half lost the battle. You really want to respond right then. On the Eaton fire, they also didn't have a Pano AI pointed up the hill, and if they had, it's possible they could have saved the town. We do not have them looking at the east side of the Willamette, so that the University of Portland's area on the bluff and Selwood's area, another bluff, are both not covered by that. Secondly, the very high-tech fire risk evaluation has not been used on the east side at all. And so we do have a situation where we could have risks that we really haven't fully evaluated yet. Could we do those by this summer? Certainly. That's literally, that is the sort of response you would get. But we really haven't started that discussion. And I've looked through all the materials in Portland. I've talked to officials and staff, and there are things we should be undertaking right now. In fact, I walked down that trail that you just put on the screen over the weekend, preparing for the lecture.
Wow. So yes, very familiar areas for people here in the Portland area. And, you said that there are these things that we could be doing. So what is it, that you would recommend for the general public to be doing to prepare for?
There's not much we can do. Over the next few years, we'll see a lot of changes in codes. Metal roofs will replace asphalt roofs. Asphalt, as you know, is a petroleum product, so it's not the best thing to have during a fire. In California, we already have laws that require people to keep vegetation away from the sides of the house. So a lot of those steps are pretty straightforward, but we really haven't gone down that path. The nature of wildfires is interesting. They started in Southern California. They've moved state by state to the north, state by state to the east. So we've been having wildfires in Oklahoma now and British Columbia. So it's not surprising that we're behind California. But the fact is, we've sort of used up our grace period. In 2021, one of my neighbors responded to a comment I made that the evacuation zone had reached Tacoma, the Selwood Bridge area. And he said, but that's a different county. Well, the problem is wildfires don't read, so they wouldn't know that. But it represented our memory of past wildfires, which were primarily rural. But as we've built right out into wildernesses, we're now seeing a lot more urban risk. And unfortunately, there's a lot more kindling in the average home than there is in a forest. So the wildfires can be incredibly quick and incredibly intense. Eaton actually expanded at 2 miles per hour. Now that doesn't sound fast. That's about how fast you walk. But that's pretty darn fast when you're talking about a neighborhood. So we could have, if we had a Oaks Bottom fire, worst case, we would actually be reaching homes much faster than our 2 local fire trucks could reach Oaks Bottom. Yeah, which is one of the reasons we lost lives in so many houses in Altadena, even though they had more resources than we do.
Wow. So something really that everybody needs to be thinking about. And as you mentioned, sounds like the grace period is over and we need to get on this here before this season comes.
And there are no villains. This is not as if anyone has done it wrong. We just haven't done it right yet. And since we have the example of exactly what can go wrong, we better follow that example carefully and make sure that we understand the risks. Eaton Fire was the name of the canyon, the town, the Altadena, middle-class town, built right up to the mountainside, like our town, and everything was in order, except, of course, they had not predicted just how intense it would be. If your dad ever took you hunting, he told you to aim ahead of the bird, not at the bird. Well, we have to start doing that.
Well, Robert, thank you for joining us, to talk about this and to get the word out there about some of this research and just really something that everybody should be thinking about. As you were saying, there's not any villains, but it doesn't mean something needs to be done to be planning ahead for that to avoid some of those kinds of things. And you mentioned that you're going to have your lecture tonight or a presentation tonight. Can you tell us just if anybody wants to attend that, or if they
It's
can?
in Reed College at 6 p.m. There is a reception afterwards at 7:30. Simply drive into the front door of Reed College. It's in the Ballum Center. And if you don't mind, we will probably be putting the presentation materials and possibly a video on our website at www.emresearch.com.
All right. Robert, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate your time and knowledge on this.
Thank you, Greg.
And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We're live streaming here out of the newsroom. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we've got plenty more that we will be covering here throughout the afternoon. Feel free to share these segments or watch them on the Fox 12 Oregon app. Up next, we're going to talk about the Pole to Pedal to Paddle celebration that goes on at Mount Bachelor. It's the 50th anniversary. And speaking of droughts, there's a little concern about the lack of snow over there. So we're going to talk about the celebration, but also how they're trying to overcome the lack of snow. So that's all coming up next here on Fox 12 Now.